Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lucy and it's been a hot minute, but I wanted to come into the new year with a brand new video for you all, and this is my top 10, I think there are 10 here, top 10 books of 2019. So I didn't read loads in 2019. I think I read about like 30 books, which I know some of the seasoned readers on here will probably think that's not a lot, but then again, everyone reads at their own pace, and I know some of you guys kind of read about the same as me, and maybe not even as much as 30 this year. However, the books that I read in 2019, I read a mix of new releases and also older books that had come out that I hadn't quite like caught up on yet, so there's quite a mix here. It's also like a mix of genres. Like looking at my pile, there's a mix of like YA and adult fiction. I would say a lot more of the reading that I'd done in 2019 was adult fiction. Anyway, enough blabbering on from me. I'm going to kick off with my top 10 books of 2019. So these are in no particular order, however I will let you guys know when it's been a particular favourite of mine. I can think of a few in this pile that just shone out amongst the others, so I'll be sure to let you know when one tickles my fancy more than the others. And the first book I am going to show you is one of those books. It is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. So I had heard of Madeline Miller you know, for quite a few years. I think since The Song of Achilles was published, so many people were going on about this book. Lots of booktubers that I follow and love, like Sana from Books and Quills and Jean from Jean's Thoughts, basically they'd been talking about Madeline Miller before. And in 2019 I picked up The Song of Achilles for the first time and basically fell in love with it, and now I'm almost finished with Circe, which is her second book, and I am obsessed with that. I can tell that Madeline Miller is now one of my favourite authors, and this book was kind of the catalyst for that love. The Song of Achilles is the story of Achilles, so it is a reimagining of the kind of Greek myth around Achilles and Patroclus. I think that's how you pronounce it, Patroclus? I don't know. Any ancient Greek, you know, experts out there, sorry if I'm pronouncing that really wrong. But it kind of goes into the story of Troy and that whole kind of epic war there over Helen. And basically I knew the story, but this really focuses in on Patroclus, like his point of view, and also his relationship with Achilles, which I knew nothing about. And obviously this is a reimagining of the myth, but I absolutely adored it. I cried like a little baby at the end, and if you've read it you will kind of understand why. It's quite a tearjerker at the end, but oh my god, this is such a special book. I'm so glad that I listened to the people who had been reviewing this so favourably and eventually picked it up, because now it's led me to Circe, which I'm obsessed with as well, and I hope to kind of give that a review on my channel soon. But yes, I absolutely adored The Song of Achilles. This is one of the few books I'm mentioning in this video that I would probably say is one of my favourites of the year. So the next book that was one of my favourites of 2019 was The Winner's Kiss, and this is by Marie Rutkowski. This is the finale to the Winner's trilogy. It is basically like a kind of like a Roman-esque inspired fantasy novel. It's aimed at YA readers, but there is so much to unpack here. I would say this kind of like transcends YA and is kind of more crossover, because there's lots of kind of really challenging themes in this book. It's quite dark. The whole series is fantastic, but the absolute joy of this novel is the skill of the writing. Like, it's so beautifully written. The story is incredible, and I won't kind of do a review of what the story is about. I think I've reviewed this on another video in my channel. I'll have a look for it and leave it down below. But anyway, I absolutely adored this book. It was one of my favourites, and it was kind of the conclusion that I wanted, so I'm really, really happy that the author kind of took the series and finished the series off in a place I really enjoyed. So very late to the party with this series, because this was kind of like really big on BookTube a few years ago, but I'm so glad that I kind of like caught up on the hype, because it is phenomenal. What a series. The third book that I loved in 2019 was the second book from Sophia Money Coutts, and it's called What Happens Now. So I read this on my Kindle, so I don't have a physical copy, But this book is phenomenal. It is basically a rom-com, and Sophia Money-Coates writes the most incredible, relatable, hilarious rom-coms. If you haven't read her first book, which is called The Plus One, I would recommend that like wholeheartedly because it's so brilliant. But also, What Happens Now is probably my favourite of her books. It is basically about a girl who goes on a Tinder date with this guy, and it goes really well, and they end up kind of like going back together, and then she finds out that she's pregnant and this man has ghosted her, basically disappeared into the ether, which I think is like such a kind of like, not relatable story, but like this modern age is so like, you know, internet dating heavy, and so many people I know have kind of like met their partners through internet dating and the apps. So it's just quite a funny, like relatable, very current love story. I won't kind of go into any spoilers of what actually happens because that again would be a spoiler, but let me just tell you there are so many hilarious scenes in this book, and what Sophia does really well is characterization, and you just fall in love with her characters so much. Like, her characters are incredible, like they really become like friends to you, and there's just so many amazing funny moments in this book. I think that's what I like about it, is that it's not kind of like a romance where it's quite serious. It's very funny, very comedic, and it's just written with such skill. So I really would recommend What Happens Now. So the next book in my 2019 favourites, I don't have the physical copy of because I read a proof copy a few months back and I think I gifted it to someone, so I can't remember where that is. But the book is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This isn't out yet, I don't think, or it comes out at the end of January, so it's not very far off at all. Hopefully by the time this video goes live, you shouldn't have too long to wait for it. However, this book is probably one of the most memorable books I've read in the year. It's already getting loads of hype, so you probably already heard of it if you're a big reader and you're kind of in the book world. But what this book is about is a girl who has a kind of very weird affair with her teacher. And basically it's told in two different time frames. So it's told when the girl is at school and she's kind of having this strange relationship with her teacher, and then in the present day, in the height of the kind of Me Too movement, when she's looking back on that relationship and realising that, you know, this relationship she thought was her first great love was perhaps very one-sided and was actually quite predatory in nature. So it's quite a hard book to read because, like, in the kind of past where Vanessa really does fall in love with her teacher and has this very weird relationship with an older man when she is in fact underage and a minor, it's bizarre because she doesn't see it as, you know, like assault or anything like that. She's very much in love with her teacher. She sees this as her great first love. And then in the present day, it's kind of that jarring of like, what was it actually? So it's quite a dark book, and obviously this topic is so current, and I think it's such an important read. I also think that it's just brilliantly written. So I urge you all to get this one when it does come out. It comes out, I think, the end of January, like I said, so not too far away. Please do put this on your list. I'm sure you will have heard about it by the end of January anyway, just because it will be such a big book. And it was one of those books that really made me think. Next up, something quite different, and a series that I'd been meaning to start for the longest time and only started it in 2019. It is, of course, The Dark Artifices, Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. So this is my like special edition one. I can't find the paperback that I read anywhere. I didn't read this like massive chunky hardback everywhere. But anyway, this made it into my top books of 2019 because I knew it would, and I should have read it sooner. It was brilliant, and yes, I think it was maybe a little bit too long, but I adored it, and I actually did a whole video review on this on my channel. I'll link all the videos down below if I've mentioned these books in other videos. But oh my god, did I adore this. Emma Carstairs is one of the most badass Shadowhunters. I adored this. If you're not familiar with Lady Midnight or this series or Cassandra Clare, basically it's an urban fantasy set in Los Angeles about a Shadowhunter who is basically a half human, half half human, half angel, who basically hunts down demons. Cassandra Clare is just such a brilliant author. I've loved her for many years. If you have watched this channel before, you might know that. And I'm just so happy that I actually got around to reading this one. I have heard that Lord of Shadows is even better, so I need to get reading Lord of Shadows, because the way this ended, I just need to know what happens. So I'm really happy to say that this has made it onto my list of books I read in 2019. Finally, like I finally read it. Next up is something, again, a little bit different. This sounds very strange, but I've been reading a lot of self-help books. Not because like I want to really change myself, or like I'm kind of reaching a crisis point or anything, but just because like I find self-help such a interesting genre. And whilst I don't think this book is a self-help book, there are definitely like elements to it. It's kind of like memoir meets self-help. There's kind of a journey of self-discovery in that. But it is The To-Do List and Other Debacles, Lessons in Life, Love and Losing My Mind by Amy Jones. So this is a non-fiction book that basically is Amy's story about her mental health. And the reason that I call it kind of self-helpy is because you reach her kind of like overcoming of a period in her life that was really, really difficult. And I actually learnt a lot from this book. Like reading this, I could relate to so many things. And I was kind of like, oh my God, like it's just so relatable. The way it's written as well is hilarious. Amy is just such a brilliant and funny writer. So I think if you're interested in mental health books, or kind of any books that address mental health or kind of like real life, then I really would recommend this one. Next up, we have Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks. So this is a graphic novel by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks, and it is one of the most quaintest, loveliest things I've read in a long time. So I read this like in September, just when it was getting really autumnal, and it was the perfect read, guys. I can't even tell you how like festive it made me feel. I'm a little bit sad now that it's like, you know, we're in January. Like I've not got like autumn to look forward to, or like Christmas to look forward to. I might just have to reread this to get the feels back. But this is basically about two friends who are only kind of friends like once a year, when they both start working at their local pumpkin patch. And this isn't like any other ordinary pumpkin patch. This has like rides, it has like loads of food places, it has mazes. It's just amazing and I want to go there. But the two friends, Deja and Josiah, they basically are friends like once a year when they work at this pumpkin patch. And it's basically their last year before they go to college. And Josiah is trying to basically ask this girl that he likes, who works at the pumpkin patch, out. And Deja is trying to help him do that. So it's a really quick read. The art style is fantastic. I'm trying to find one of the most like autumnal scenes, but it all looks like really amazingly autumnal and lovely. So if you haven't read this yet, I would really recommend it. It'll take you less than a day to read. It took me a few hours, less than that. I think I read it like in one sitting in the bath, which is quite disgusting because I was in there for like 2 hours. But anyway, I absolutely adored this, and it's got Rainbow Rowell's like beautifully understated but sweet storytelling, and the art by Faith Erin Hicks as well is brilliant. So would recommend this if you're after a graphic novel to add to your list. Okay, the light is failing me. Why I chose to film this video at like 4 PM on a January evening is a big mistake. Anyway, my next book I want to talk about, which is probably, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this might be my favourite book of 2019. It is Expectation by Anna Hope. First off, look at this cover. It is a thing of beauty. This book is an adult fiction book that I hadn't really heard of when it was first published, but then I started seeing a lot of like my favourite reviewers in the press really love this. So I was kind of like, oh, okay, maybe I should pick this up and read it. This is a like more on the literary scale, so it's like literary adult fiction, and it's about three women in their 30s who basically struggle with where they want to be, and it has lots of flashbacks to when they met around the time of like university, and it takes each of their lives and it follows each of their lives, and they're all so different. So one of them is happily married but trying to get pregnant and failing. one of them basically got pregnant by accident and has kind of fallen into marriage because of that. And then the other one is basically trying to become an actress and trying to like really like go for her career. But each of the lives of these women is so complex, and oh my god, like there's some heart-wrenching scenes. Like I cried my eyes out at some of this book because it just hits home so much. And it's like, you know, I think the title expectation is exactly that. Like as women, we place these expectations on where we see ourselves in like 10 years time. Will we have family? Will we have a partner? And all this, and it kind of like really made me think about a lot of stuff. And I think that's like the best books. Like if they can really make you think about something, I think that makes a wonderful book. So this was probably one of my surprise favourites of 2019. Okay, so 2019, guys, was the year that I finally finished Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas. This is the final book in the Throne of Glass series. I have been reading this book for over a year. So I started reading this book when it was published in like September 2018, and I finished it in December 2019. The reason why is because there is so much of this book that I think could have been chopped out. And, you know, it is a massive book. There are 980 pages in this, and I adored the Throne of Glass series, don't get me wrong. You know how much I love Sarah J Maas. I love her so much. Her books mean the world to me. They've made me into the reader I am today. But there was lots of Kingdom of Ash that dragged a lot for me. And so you might be wondering, well, why is it in your favourite books of 2019? Once I got towards the end and things started clicking into place and hitting home, I was an emotional wreck. Like, I think part of the reason I didn't, like, it took me so long to finish this was because I was scared to, because it was like saying goodbye to the characters that I've carried with me for like, how many years? Like 6 years or something? Something crazy like that. And oh my god, like saying goodbye to these characters, I was not prepared for. I wept, and yeah, I was very, very emotional afterwards. So this is a very special novel in that not only is it brilliantly written, and I do think that maybe some chapters could have been cut out, but the overall shaping of the story was so impressive. The character journeys, oh my god, and the just general plot twists, and you know, the ending, I just loved. I loved so much. And I'm so happy but also devastated that the series is complete now. So yes, I'm having to say goodbye to Aelin and Dorian and Rowan and Kale, and it's too much. It's sad. And my final favourite book of 2019 was The Life Diet by Laura Jane Williams. The reason I don't have a physical copy is because it wasn't published in a physical format. It was published on ebook and audio only, because it was like a digital kind of like project. Anyway, I read this on my Kindle, and this is Laura Jane Williams, who is a journalist and author. It is basically her like self-help book, but like kind of how to streamline your life. But what I loved about this was it wasn't done in a very like kind of this is how you should do things. It wasn't like very worthy. It is a relatable, brilliant, really readable book on all parts of your life and how basically you just need to like streamline it and cut out people who are bad for you and cut out things that are bad for you, but also like really embrace your life. So I think I read this when I was extremely busy in the autumn of this year. Work had probably been kicking my ass a bit, and I just needed like something that was like a pat on the shoulder, basically being like, you can do this, you can get through this. And that book was basically like a warm, nourishing hug in book form. It also gave me the push I needed to kind of like get me into the right headspace and like finish off the year on a good note. So that was The Life Diet by Laura Jane Williams, and I would recommend it. So guys, those are my top 10 books of 2019. Do let me know down in the comments below what your favourite books of 2019 were, and I really hope you liked some of my choices, and thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, why not give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more bookish content, and I will see you very soon, guys. Bye!